Bird Box was directed by Suzanne Bier and it stars Sandra Bullock, Trevant Rhodes, and John Malkovich. It was released on Netflix on the 21st of December and it's the apocalyptic survival story of a single mother and a small supporting cast trapped in a house. They can only go outside blindfolded because of a mysterious presence that causes people to go crazy and immediately commit suicide if they catch a glimpse of it. The film is based on a 2014 novel by Josh Malerman. Ever since the trailer came out, it drew comparison to A Quiet Place, but it also has elements of The Mist and The Happening. The film's premise is interesting, the direction is solid, and the acting, while not especially great or noteworthy, is completely okay and appropriate. However, the supporting characters lack development, and overall the film lacks a serious sense of danger or tension. It's not especially entertaining, scary, thought-provoking, or attention-grabbing. It's a very average movie that's mitigated by the fact that it's on Netflix, so one basically gets to see it for free. Everything from the source material that was intriguing, well thought out or suspenseful was either changed or left out, which leads us to the book comparison. But first, since we're going to discuss a book, let's break this down into chapters. In the book, the apocalypse happens gradually, so people have some time to prepare. There is a house that advertises shelter and welcomes people to come. Mallory is holed up in her own house with her sister, who doesn't die in a car crash. She kills herself inside the house, which prompts Mallory to leave and go to the house from the ad. None of this is all that important, and the changes in the movie were most likely done for pacing reasons to get to the main plot quicker. And that's okay. However, in the book the house is relatively poorly furnished and their supply of food is limited. They live on rations of canned food and there are constant mentions of them steadily running out. This causes tension between the people and eventually two characters go scavenging outside on what is a dangerous and lengthy mission. In the movie, there is a brief mention of food eventually running out before this is immediately solved by going to a well-stocked supermarket. The mission kills a character who was annoying anyway, and all in all it's a success that eliminates any sense of scarcity. In the next scene we see Mallory making a PB sandwich in a nice kitchen inside a luxurious house. That's a very comfortable apocalypse. They also have running water. In the book the house has a well in the backyard and they have to go out daily to fetch water. These excursions outside are a constant source of danger and provide a couple of tense scenes that the movie is sorely missing. The well appears in only one scene and Tom and Mallory argue loudly. There is no sense that it's dangerous to be outside. Also, the pregnancies are a bigger deal in the book as everyone in the house worries about the additional strain on their resources and about not being ready for the medical procedure of giving birth. It's a sort of ticking clock where the reader is curious to see what will happen and how they'll manage. In the movie, it's hardly even discussed. The fear of seeing something outside plays a major role in the book. Even catching a slight glimpse of the creature, or whatever it is, could be deadly and characters are actively afraid of this threat. Their windows are blacked out with heavy curtains and furniture. Their blindfold regimen is strict. They live in darkness. Mallory even trains the children to wake up with their eyes closed and they sleep in tents just in case. On the river, it's Mallory who has to take down her blindfold briefly to see which way to steer the boat, and she fears this moment on pages and pages of inner turmoil. In the movie, the windows are covered with flimsy blinds and newspaper, and characters are quick to take off their blindfolds. In the book, Mallory would never do this. The POV shots through translucent blindfolds also seem totally pointless. All they do is diminish the sense that Mallory is blind, because she's really not. They also diminish the threat of seeing the creature. In the book, Gary has a much more substantial, mysterious and ominous presence. There is something outside that can kill you if you see it, but Gary is just as much of a threat and a villain in the story. In the movie, he has hardly any screen time and no development. He's just a new character that shows up out of nowhere and does one crazy thing because of plot reasons. He takes down the curtains and blinds during the birth scene, which causes characters to see the thing outside and go crazy. In the book, this is terrifying mayhem and a huge fight for survival on Mallory's part. She hears violent stuff happening downstairs as she's giving birth and there is a sense of helplessness and real danger. In the movie it's quite mild in comparison and in no way memorable. Gary casually walks in the room after both babies are born and there is a bit of action. Perhaps the filmmakers didn't want a gory bloodbath, and that's perfectly fine. But again, they missed an opportunity to create real suspense. The biggest and worst change from the book is what happens with Tom. In the book, Tom is killed during the birth scene, at the end of which Mallory is left weak from giving birth, with 2 newborns in her hands, all the windows uncovered, blood everywhere, all her friends dead, and Gary has run off somewhere. She is at her absolute lowest point, hopeless and helpless. And then the phone rings. By the way, in the book the phones still work and they fruitlessly call all the numbers in the phone book to look for survivors. This is when Mallory is contacted by Rick, who tells her they have a safe haven, a compound where she can go. It's an emotional scene and a sudden spark of hope that propels Mallory. In the movie, Tom is alive, there is a forced romance between them, and they live like a nice little family for a couple of comfortable years. Is that supposed to be a suspenseful survival story? In the book, Mallory constantly trains the children to rely on their ears, to listen carefully and to distinguish even the smallest sounds. It's survival training for a world where you can't open your eyes, but it's also training with a specific goal in mind. She wants the children to be her ears when they finally go on the river and look for Rick's safe haven. This is a major focus of the book, but in the movie it's barely mentioned. There is this scene.
Listen to the clicks. Listen to the sounds if they're softer or louder. Listen to this. Listen.
And that's about it. None of this comes into play significantly later on. In the book, once they are on the river, she uses the children just as she intended. They are basically her sonar, and their rough upbringing clearly led to this moment. In the movie, they don't really do much. Instead, they spend dozens of hours on the river, and then there is a dumb action scene on the rapids. In the book, it's rough going. They constantly get caught in tree branches near the shore. They are attacked by crazy wolves which have seen the creature. Mallory is injured, and the creature shows up right when Mallory is supposed to take off her blindfold to see which way to go. It's all tense and earned, so of course it's not in the movie. The intention of this video is not to say movies should be adapted word for word from their source novels. There are things that don't work in the visual medium, there are things that need to be changed for pacing, there is artistic license, etc. It's right there in the phrase adapted screenplay. However, changing or leaving things out becomes problematic when your script has nothing better to offer. All the intrigue and suspense of this story was right there for the taking. A Quiet Place and The Mist were right there for inspiration and to see how a high-concept survival story could be done right. But Bird Box went its own way and it was a wrong turn.